Any great news about the new Power Rangers reboot movie yet? Maybe sooner than expected. Greetings, Anthony Mars Jr. on PR Lost Galaxy 2014 with the brand new video commentary podcast here on Terra Adventure, and welcome all to podcast episode 136, presented by my self-devoted fan page on Facebook and the Morphin Megaverse Power Rangers Facebook group of mine. If you have not checked any of those, check them out now. Ever since the announcement about Lionsgate and Saban Brands coming up with the third Power Rangers movie, after hearing certain announcements of who the writers will be and such, there hasn't been much information about the reboot thus far, other than hearing about Roberto Orci being originally supposed to be a writer on the Power Rangers reboot film. I was very curious that he would do writing credits. I mean, well, hey, if Roberto Orci did writing and producing credits on the Hawaii Five-0 reboot for CBS, I was very skeptical of how he would have done if he was to produce the Power Rangers reboot film with Saban, because, Roberto Orci is known for doing writing credits on Michael Bay's first two Transformers movies, the first two J.J. Abrams directed Star Trek films, and onwards, and even the Amazing Spider-Man 2, of course, but to be honest though, when I think about these reboots and such, I mean, based on movies, blockbuster movies that came out in recent years that people still today like The Dark Knight, Michael Bay's Transformers movies, or if you have hatred toward the Michael Bay movies, that's fine, or any other any big blockbuster name movie out there, like Hunger Games and The Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, half of those movies I just mentioned, I actually do like those. I like The Avengers. I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I like The Dark Knight. Actually, the overall Batman trilogy of Christopher Nolan's, well, with The Dark Knight Rises being my top favorite. I'm not going to say I hate The Dark Knight, but like Dark Knight Rises or anything. No, I would never say that. And I also like the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Yeah, you guys go ahead and hate me for saying I like the Amazing Spider-Man films. When knowing to in your perspective and point of views, those movies suck, and nothing will top the Tobey Maguire films / Sam Raimi directed films of the original Spider-Man franchise. But in conjunction to Lionsgate and Saban's new Power Rangers movie, on the other hand, how is that going to topple topple franchises that have been far more successful than Power Rangers? Because, I think the reason why I feel that the Power Rangers reboot movie probably won't do as good is because, I mean, people can prefer movie franchises that they know that are more popular and have more fan followings than Power Rangers does. I mean, I understand Power Rangers has a small adult following and such, but you got to understand that I know this franchise has been going on for 2 decades, and you guys got to realize, I mean, for those that are not Power Ranger fans, period, but this is going to be one of the biggest movie releases of next year. Even if you're not, well, if you don't accept the reboot when it comes out, or Power Rangers being reinvigorated for the big screen, then I don't know what can I say about you before I start flipping people off with the middle finger on camera and saying "fuck you, asshole" or nothing. But no. Because then people will tell me, "fuck you, asshole," back to me. And for those who want to dislike my video, because sometimes I can go off the rocker talking about other peripheral things that are not needed to be discussed, that's when people would like to dislike my videos, unsubscribe, and say, "fuck me." Well, I get it. Or even maybe because when I come up on a video talking about this or that, about Power Rangers or whatever, or anything other than Power Rangers. And when I be discussing some things to illustrate my points, by even when I be using profanity from time to time, that's when I know then and there people will unsubscribe and say, people don't understand what I'm talking about. People don't understand what I'm talking about. That's why they unsubscribe, or just say fuck me in the comment section, or just don't say nothing and just click off the video, tune out, and find something else to watch. I mean, the Power Rangers reboot film, when I first heard of around the time following Saban's reacquisition of the Power Rangers franchise, back 5 years ago, 5.5 going on 6 years ago in 2010, in May of 2010, when Saban wanted to bring reacquire the rights to Power Rangers back from Disney and decided to put the show on Nickelodeon, they had intentions on, secretly at first, on a third Power Rangers movie. And however, though, there were some intentions on doing a film, because I thought that Clash of the Red Rangers of Power Rangers Samurai was going to count as that third Power Rangers movie when Samurai was airing, but I was wrong. That was just a piss poor excuse of a movie. Because when you call that Clash of the Red Rangers of Power Rangers Samurai a movie, it doesn't really qualify as a movie. All that was just the team up between RPM and Samurai meshed together into this 1 hour TV movie like experience on television, but as a team up. I can see past Ranger team up episodes, like Operation Overdrive's Once a Ranger was in a TV movie like format, then we'll know something like that. Or what about Trakina's Revenge from Lightspeed Rescue? Although we know that story. Or what about the Ninja Storm Dino Thunder team up? What if that would have qualified in the TV movie format? Since Power Rangers, ever since the Turbo movie, caused Power Rangers not to make another film since. Come 2017 or 2016, we're going to be proven a lot differently that the Power Rangers reboot movie will be better than the first two Power Rangers films, because the early two movies, now the first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, obviously, that was a success because it captivated to the cult following of why people love Mighty Morphin than any of the Power Ranger iteration. While Turbo, the following 2 years later in 1997, that film was a failure financially and commercially, and caused Power Rangers not to make another film. In the meantime, though, during seasons like In Space and Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, and even in the Disney era, I'm not going to bring up in reference to my favorite Ranger season because people are pretty annoyed by that. And during that era, starting with Power Rangers in Space and onwards, up until like Jungle Fury RPM, Disney, Saban wanted to do a third Power Rangers film during, let's say Time Force, in between that I was about to say that, and Time Force were about to have films. Like, for example, What's That season that you keep hearing me talk about all the time was supposed to have a reunion film, but ended up getting a team up with Lightspeed Rescue, while Time Force would have attempted to get a feature film, but due to a Screen Actors Guild strike at the time, a film based on a Time Force movie was scrapped. And when Disney, at the time when Disney required the rights to Power Rangers, none of those who worked with Saban earlier and throughout the Power Rangers run, when they took the show's production to New Zealand, they should have, told Disney they should do a Power Rangers movie, because there hasn't been a third movie since. And ever since the Turbo movie, there has not been another Power Rangers film. And everybody knows that. But when Disney had Power Rangers, they never even got a chance to do one. But yet, they can throw out a whole handful of, CG animated films that I tend not to care for, or just don't care for at all. Like Chicken Little and Bolt and those movies. at the time, and some really crappy half-assed direct-to-DVD sequels to classic Disney movies that I even loved when I was a kid, like sequels to Hunchback of Notre Dame with Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, or Tarzan with Tarzan 2, or Peter Pan with Return to Neverland, instead of a Power Rangers movie. And I said, well, and I just looking back at all this information about a proposed third Power Rangers movie information, and thought, well, even in between Turbo to right now, there hasn't been, about the whole, which of these seasons in between Turbo and currently should have been that third Power Rangers movie. What season should have been? Time Force, or any of the Disney seasons like Operation Overdrive, or if the show was in the 15th anniversary, what Operation Overdrive in 2007, Disney could have had the opportunity to do a third Power Rangers movie then, but they decided, knowing Disney, they never cared for Power Rangers, and I figured exactly why. Well, as much as you guys can rip on the Neo Saban era, thinking that, the Saban Brands is not doing as good as Disney neither, and you think Disney did good with Power Rangers, well, I can accept Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder and SPD for being good seasons of that era, but the Disney era in general was not a good era for Power Rangers in my book, because there are certain seasons that I hate from that era, like obviously RPM and Operation Overdrive. But currently here in the Neo Saban era, consisting of Samurai, Super Samurai, Megaforce, Super Megaforce, and right now, Dino Charge, Saban is actually making the move to do a third Power Rangers film. My thoughts exactly, following the announcement about it back in May of last year, early May of last year, I was very skeptical what the Power Rangers reboot film was going to be about. Now, about it being a reboot, because every time I'm on the internet, on Google, looking up photos for Power Rangers, I want to add, for photo galleries, personal photo galleries, and post them on Facebook and as my avatars and stuff. And as soon as I swarm around the internet on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, actually only those two sites where I'm mostly popular on. Actually, I'm not really that popular here on YouTube, but probably somewhere on Facebook. And when I'm looking at art, fan art of Power Rangers, there is far more fan art about Mighty Morphin than any other Power Rangers. And the reason why is because, I've already told you my reasons. I'm not going to repeat it. Is because, Mighty Morphin is more nostalgic, is more recognizable than other. For those that don't care about later Power Ranger seasons, and and that's what really kind of pisses me off now. It makes me want to be, want me to become less likely interested in Power Rangers again. Because Power Rangers has a large fan base compared to other fan bases, or actually minimally to smaller fan bases, compared to well-known franchises like the Marvel Universe, DC Universe, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, whatever, Star Wars. And knowing Power Rangers conveyed over now 22 years of the franchise. Next year, when this reboot comes out, it'll be 23 years of Power Rangers. And for some reason, there's far more Mighty Morphin stuff all over. And I'm not trying to be an anti-Mighty Morphin purist here. I guess, maybe I am starting to sound like one. But if that's the case, why they're doing... I think that was because I can vision it right now. When I probably see a teaser trailer, a full-on trailer, and a Super Bowl trailer for next year, if the Power Rangers reboot film will have a Super Bowl teaser trailer for next year for the 50th anniversary Super Bowl game. And I can see it now that the reboot movie, because I can picture it now, because knowing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and despite its 20 plus year popularity with fans because of the nostalgia, that they crave from it, it's definitely going to be a Mighty Morphin film. I don't hate Mighty Morphin. I would never say that. I mean, if I go out and do like a video one day and say I hate Mighty Morphin because this season is overrated, this season has too much toys, this season has too much fan films being floating around on the internet, it has too much fan art, too much fan fiction stories about it, about Tommy, Kimberly, whatever, or you know, in the original 6 in general, about Rita being the main villain instead of Lord Zed or whoever. Bulk and Skull, nah, just no. I would never go around saying that. Then otherwise, a lot of you fans, a lot of those who are fans of Power Rangers like myself will turn against me and start sending me hate messages on, and even here on videos like this in the comments section, because of what I would have said if I was to say I hate Mighty Morphin because it's overrated. You know what I'm saying? And, well, you guys go ahead and talk about how much you don't like later seasons of Power Rangers like Turbo or Mystic Force or Samurai or even Super Megaforce, for example. But you can't say nothing bad about Mighty Morphin because that's the classic. It's the original. They came first. They started this. I mean, well, if it was for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, theory-wise, obviously, we wouldn't have seasons of Power Rangers like Lightspeed Rescue or In Space or Turbo or Lost Galaxy or Super Megaforce or RPM. Because for what I said about talking bad about Mighty Morphin the way I did, I mean, if I was to do this right now while talking about the reboot and say that I hate Mighty Morphin, you guys would definitely hate me and say, fuck you, Anthony Mars Jr. Well, how'd you like it if we said we hate Lost Galaxy or Super Megaforce or those stupid-ass seasons of Power Rangers? Nothing can beat the original Power Rangers. I'm a Mighty Morphin fan, and I'll always be a diehard Mighty Morphin fan. Fuck you, asshole. And I'll be like, well, fuck you, too. So, but no. Because, knowing a fan base, there is always arrogant butthurt fanboys, and I may sound like a butthurt fanboy too, but I'm not real. Well, I know I did this in some videos when I discussed Tanaya 7 earlier, or how much as soon as I record my video on how much I hate Power Ranger Samurai soon, then you're probably going to see how extremely butthurt I am towards Samurai, but at least I didn't go out in late November, before Thanksgiving last year, and expressing how butthurt I was towards Super Megaforce last year, following the legendary battle. No. At least I took my criticism towards Super Megaforce calmly, rather than being like every other person around the world right now after seeing the damage that Super Megaforce caused last year. I understand the criticism. And how intense the criticism is for Super Megaforce. But as soon as when Dino Charge starts soon, you're probably going to be butthurt as well. You're probably going to be butthurt toward how much Dino Charge is doing exactly what the same fault that Megaforce went through, having rushed storylines, rushed character development, and everything. No. Again, back to the reboot, about the Power Rangers. The third Power Rangers movie. What I expect from the reboot film is I expect it to be, knowing that Power Rangers, there are like 3 or 4 different timelines, I suppose. Because I think, to me, the Neo Saban era should be the separate timeline, so make that the 4th timeline aside from the original timeline that consisted of Mighty Morphin, the Jungle Fury, RPM with its standalone timeline, the movie timeline, which consisted the standalone continuity of the first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, and the Neo Saban timeline would consist of the Samurai Megaforce and Dino Charts and their super seasons in its separate timeline. I don't think. Because I think that the Neo Saban era does have its own timeline as well, because I can see it. Because after seeing RPM have its own timeline, what would make the Neo Saban era have its own timeline? Just thinking about it. I mean, Samurai was the first to start off this Neo Saban stuff. Then it's Super Season, Super Samurai, Super Mega, Megaforce, Super Megaforce. Now Dino Charge, and next year in 2016, Dino Supercharge. Just thinking about it. Chewing on a cough drop, sorry. And my begging for, if it's going to be a Mighty Morphin reboot film, they're probably going to go someone, the writers that is behind this, those who were the writers for X-Men First Class and such. If they're going to do a Mighty Morphin reboot, I think they need to go all the way back to the beginning, where how Rita escaped from her space dumpster, Zordon recruits Alpha to recruit 5 overbearing emotional teenagers with attitude, which, the original 5 Power Rangers, Jason, Billy, Trini, Zach, and Kimberly, all over. And, it's going to be possible to bring Tommy, in the mix in the first movie, because I feel like they should take the reboot slow, because why do you think for the first, 15, 16, 17 some episodes of season 1 of MMPR, that we started those first 15, 16 some episodes with just the original 5, and then maybe if they do a sequel to the reboot, Tommy should be in that film, and then the third movie, a possible third reboot movie, if they'll do it. But I'm not trying to spoil it for future years, but if they do have Tommy having difficulties losing his Green Ranger powers despite despite of the Green Candle or whatever, any stories like that, and just saying that if they took those events from the Mighty Morphin days in an alternate timeline, because looking back, and I hate to harken about the MMPR movie from 1995, 20 years ago, when they told the Ninja Quest story that would later be told in the show differently in the film's timeline, in the movie's standalone timeline. The way how the Rangers got the ninja powers known as in that the Ninjetti powers from Dulcia, and they would use the ninja powers to face off Ivan Ooze from conquering Angel Grove despite as much Ivan already destroyed Zordon. It's in that timeline. So maybe they could do the stories from Day of the Dumpster, Greenwood Evil, and those story arcs in an alternate, way of that reboot timeline. Maybe I'm just guessing that. Maybe they might do the reboot on those stories. Episodes, after you tell the origin of how Jason, Trini, Zach, Kimberly, and Billy became the original Power Rangers, I think after doing a small retelling of Day of the Dumpster, I feel that the reboot should have a newer story, a new take of how the Rangers would deal with Rita's forces and such, or if it's going to be Lord Zed, maybe or have both Rita and Zed to get. I don't know how that's going to work, because that's something that's going to be hard for me to see. Well, if Rita and Zed were together in the first Mighty Morphin movie, maybe, I guess this time for the reboot, it's going to be either Rita or Zed. Because I feel to be honest though, I hate to say this to you guys, but in terms of villains from the Mighty Morphin seasons and throughout the Power Rangers universe, I never really was a fan of Rita Repulsa. I never was. I liked the Rita from season 1, but when we got to the other 2 seasons, despite the rest of Mighty Morphin being all American, I did not like the Rita in the U.S. shot footage for seasons 2 and 3, even in Zeo and even in Power Rangers in Space, because I've always thought that Rita in the U.S. footage, when she was played by Carla Perez in costume, Barbara Goodson would still do the voice. I've always thought that Rita was obnoxious looking and such in the American footage, because don't get me wrong, But though I rather prefer, I've always preferred Rita footage counterpart from Zoo Ranger more than the Rita from, the American footage. I've always did. And this is also the problem. Another problem. And another thing I also wish for the reboot, for all of you guys that just seem to not want to wake up from these kind of realities. I mean, I understand you want to live your own reality of how you're going to, if you was to do a Power Rangers reboot film and all, not to be upset about it, like a uptight bitch or anything. If you were to do this reboot, I wouldn't suggest pick high-profile, big-name, A-list movie stars that we know over and over and over, that we hear about a lot of the time. Actors like Patrick Stewart or Cameron Diaz or Helen Mirren or Sigourney Weaver or whoever to be this character or be that character, or even people like Jonah Hill or Seth Rogen to be like, let's say, if I was to do this reboot film, I would pick, well, I'll start with Bulk and Skull, Zordon, and the villains first. If I was to pick who would have been Bulk and Skull, it would be either, well, for Bulk, it would have been either Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill, or either of those two. Or if I was to pick someone to be Skull, it would be either Seth Green or Michael Cera. I don't know. And for Zordon, it would be either Patrick Stewart or Liam Neeson. Or if I was to cast someone to be Lord Zed, obviously people rather see Michael Fassbender play Lord Zed, and according from their little fan casting slides that I've seen on the internet, on Google and such, and I don't think that's ever going to work. And, and also after looking at all these different fan casting choices I've seen on the internet, because despite people's, fantasy of seeing these big name actors they think looks like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, well, as much as I can do who can look like the Lost Galaxy Rangers and whoever in my fan films of, not to be in conjunction, sorry, I had to let that slip away. I can do that well. But when it comes to Mighty Morphin, I can't even pick. I mean, I love the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but seeing big name actors as the original 6 or so, it's hard for me to see who should play those characters. But for you guys, you can find that easy. You can find who should play the Pink Ranger, who could play the Yellow Ranger, who could play the Red Ranger, who can play the Green or White Ranger, who could play Zordon or Lord Zed. I mean, you can do that, but I can't. But I can understand what you guys can see from what I was doing. Well, although I have nothing to do with this, but I had to let this slip away. You guys can go ahead and dislike this video for me talking about that, or just dislike the video because of me rambling about nothing. I mean, random bullshit for no reason. And I mean, you guys can do well with the your little fan castings of who should be the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Well, I can do the same for Lost Galaxy. Well, only for a fan film. Or if I was to do Power Rangers in Space, I would pick who should play Andros, who could play Carlos, who could play Astronema, who could play, or do the voice of Dark Spectre or Dark Honda or those characters. Or if I was to do Lightspeed Rescue, who could play Carter, who should play Dana, who should play Diabolico, who should play Vipra. Or if I was to do Time Force, who could play Wes, who could play Jen, who could play Rancic, or play Eric. Those examples. But the Mighty Morphin series, despite its wide known recognition after 23 odd years now, 22 odd years, I feel to me that Mighty Morphin is, I don't want, okay, this sounds more like hate speech, not to be a Mighty Morphin anti Mighty Morphin purist or anything. But, past fan castings I've done, who should have been the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, I hate to share this story, this small story with you, but when I wanted to do a Mighty Morphin reboot movie of my own, I always thought, in terms of fan casting in my mind, half of the choices that I had were pretty ridiculous. I mean, Some people have suggested either Shia LaBeouf should be Jason or Sophia Bush or whoever to be Kimberly or whoever to be Zach, whoever to be Tommy or Billy or Trini. Or if I was doing a film, if I was doing a Mighty Morphin reboot film based on the season 2, season 3 lineup of the Rangers, like who should play Rocky, who should play Kimberly, who should play Catherine, who should play Aisha, or those characters. I mean, or Adam. I mean, I really, or Billy. I just never, I could never come up with the right choices. I mean, like, if I was to do a Mighty Morphin reboot film, I would pick Ryan Reynolds to play Tommy because, you know, when I look at Ryan Reynolds, he looks a bit, well, thinking about how Ryan Reynolds looks, when I had a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie in my thoughts, if I was to do it, I would pick Ryan Reynolds as Tommy because I thought he looked at, you know, what if he was the modern day Jason David Frank, but when knowing Ryan Reynolds' career is currently declining, but before he did movies like The Change Up and R.I.P.D. and such and Green Lantern, what if Ryan Reynolds was Tommy as the Green/White Ranger? If I was to do a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers reboot movie of my own, and even for Kimberly, if I was to pick someone to play that part, you know, half of the actresses you guys can pick for Kimberly, half of those actresses are just overrated bimbos. Yes, I have to say that, overrated bimbos that you see all the time. Sophia Bush would have been my choice for Kimberly, or Blake Lively, or Katie Cassidy, perhaps for Kimberly. Jason, you know, I've seen someone's video about who would be the Power Rangers in this reboot movie, like Zac Efron, Shia LaBeouf, and the Garrett Hedlund, you know, from the Tron Legacy movie. Who should play, knowing Trini, I mean, it's possible, despite the fact Thuy Trang is dead. I mean, the thing is about, I understand Trini is one of the 6 of the original Power Rangers, you know, the original 5 turned 6. But the thing about, if you're going to do a Mighty Morphin reboot with Trini, I don't know what you should do, actually. I mean, I understand Trini is one of my favorite Yellow Rangers, but seeing someone who isn't like Thuy Trang, I mean, I understand Thuy Trang was of Vietnamese American descent, but it's impossible to find a young Asian actress in her, like, 20s to play Trini. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, Jamie Chung, yes, she may be a good choice, but you know, my choice for Trini was ridiculous, picking Lucy Liu when knowing she was in her 40s. I mean, a 40-year-old actress to play a teenager who is a Power Ranger. No. I mean, suppose if I had Lucy Liu as Scorpina, or Zhang Zi or someone, or Maggie Q as Scorpina. I don't know. Well, however, I have 2 fan casting photos that I found on Google earlier this morning, and I thought, you know, I mean, I can accept the Jamie Chung, consideration for the Yellow Ranger, but what's so fucking ridiculous is there's this photo with Rita Repulsa, and in between it is a photo of Cameron Diaz if she was Rita. Oh, no, be honest, because Cameron Diaz, every movie I have seen her in, besides the Shrek movies, although she was the voice of that, Princess Fiona in those movies, and also the Charlie's Angels movies, the 2 Charlie's Angels movies that still exist, and no 3rd Charlie's Angels movie has been made since Full Throttle. Every movie that Cameron Diaz has done lately, and even before and after Shrek and Charlie's Angels, every single movie that she has done that I have seen sucked. So I don't even want to imagine Cameron Diaz as Rita, really, because I could see if she was, well, if I was to reboot Power Rangers Turbo, I would make Cameron Diaz as Divatox. No offense, but seeing Cameron Diaz as Rita, that is real. Ugh, really. I mean, I could see Cameron Diaz as Divatox than Rita, and pick someone like more complex than that for, Rita's role. No, some fan casting photos I've seen, there were some photos where someone from the X-Men movies, like Famke Janssen, who was the role of Jean Grey in those films, would be Rita. And I said, I don't think Famke Janssen can do Rita. I mean, sure, she can pull off the Dark Phoenix role in X-Men The Last Stand, but I can't see her as Rita. You got to do your choices very well. And also, another thing about the reboot is that I think they shouldn't really, well, to be honest, in general, I don't think they should have big-name Hollywood celebrities like Cameron Diaz or whoever. But at least, at least if you was to do the casting, you can only, I think, in my mind, you can only pick one big-name celebrity to play one character. And I think, Patrick Stewart should do Zordon. Or Liam Neeson, because, if Liam Neeson did the voice of that talking lion in the Chronicles of Narnia movies, maybe, and even whatever, then maybe he could be Zordon, or Patrick Stewart. I was betting Patrick Stewart because Patrick Stewart has a bald head. Maybe Patrick Stewart could be Zordon. The only big-name celebrity that can play an iconic mentor of the Power Rangers. While the 5 original teenagers with attitude should be played by unknown nobodies. And I think this is my problem why I keep going around fan-made videos about a Power Rangers reboot over and over about people who pick big-name actors, even actors I don't even give a fucking care about, to be the Power Rangers. I mean, like, if you pick Zac Efron as the Red Ranger, or what's her face from the Hunger Games? Obviously Jennifer Lawrence is the Pink Ranger because they think. Well, I don't really think Jennifer Lawrence is all that attractive. I mean, she's a good actress. But it's just I just don't find her attractive. You guys can go tell me fuck me for that all you want in the comments section for that for my comment on that, or some black guy to be Zack. Suppose if you had Kevin Hart as Zack, the Black Ranger. Because, what if you made Kevin Hart as Zack, knowing Kevin Hart is in his, 30s or 40s, and you can't have no, really. Or even have Andrew Garfield as Billy. Well, if Andrew Garfield can do his Peter Parker with the glasses nerd look in his Amazing Spider-Man movies, what would make you think Andrew Garfield should fit for the Blue Ranger? Really. Andrew Garfield, if I was to come across Andrew Garfield in a movie premiere, if I did, and I told you, if I told you, Andrew, have you ever been a fan of Power Rangers growing up? Well, knowing obviously Andrew Garfield, since his childhood, he's mostly been a fan of Spider-Man. So if he says no, and he's never been a fan of Power Rangers, then you guys can't pick him. Well, you guys can pick him for your free will, but I just can't see Andrew Garfield as a Power Ranger. Well, yes, when I did my, Lost Galaxy fan film stuff in my head, I imagined Tobey Maguire, a former Spider-Man, to be a Power Ranger. Think about it. And imagine if Tobey Maguire was a Power Ranger. Or anyone from the Spider-Man trilogy, like James Franco, if he was the Black or Blue Ranger. Or if Kirsten Dunst was the Pink Ranger. No. Because then it would look like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies all over. Or if you pick someone from the Dark Knight trilogy, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who played John Blake in The Dark Knight Rises. If you was to reestablish Rocky, Adam, and Aisha's characters, I think you might pick Joseph Gordon-Levitt for Adams' character, because I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt looks like modern day Johnny Young Bosch if Joseph was to play Adam. And if I was to pick someone to play Aisha, if I was to do a Mighty Morphin film with all the Mighty Morphin characters, not just the original 6, because I like the lineup, but I think it's getting a bit overused and such. If I was to pick someone to be Aisha, it would either be the girl from what movie? Some black girl. I can't think of her name. And for Rocky, if I was to redo him, if there was an actor that would be like Steve Cardenas or isn't like him, or looks like Steve Cardenas when he played Rocky, I can't even decide who could play him. Now, my casting consideration, if I was to readapt Catherine, one of my favorite Pink Rangers. Second Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger, Zeo Ranger 1, and Pink Turbo. My casting consideration for Cat was kind of stupid, and my casting choice for if I was to do a Mighty Morphin film, I picked it, obviously, Sienna Miller, from the G.I. Joe, American Sniper movies and such. Alfie, Factory Girl. Stupid idea. Yeah, it was a stupid casting idea. But with me, in my mind, thinking if Ryan Reynolds was Tommy, and, you guys could pick Taylor Lautner for Tommy, or whoever to be Tommy, some unknown actor I don't even know about. Now, for the directors, for the love of God, I swear to freaking God, you better not pick Michael Bay for this job as director. Because Michael Bay, I understand people hate the guy. Or if you pick Steven Sommers, because bad enough, after watching his G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra movie for the last 5 years, and looking back at it, knowing Steven Sommers, if he butchered G.I. Joe, what would make him to butcher a Power Rangers reboot with film for Saban and Lionsgate? So just imagine. So imagine if Saban picked Steven Sommers to direct this film. You guys would, knowing all of you guys hate Steven Sommers as much as you hate Michael Bay, Roland Emmerich, Martin Campbell, and a couple other film directors that are the worst film directors ever. I mean, just imagine that. Or imagine if, I'm not a film director, not an actor, producer, whatever. I'm just a normal person who's just making videos for no uncertain reason. What if you picked Steven Spielberg as the executive producer? Or if you picked, I know most of you guys want to imagine a Christopher Nolan-esque Power Rangers reboot film. Because if Christopher Nolan revigorated Batman with his trilogy of the character, you would think Christopher Nolan should do a Power Rangers reboot film. He should be just producer. Or if you had Zack Snyder, if he did Watchmen, 300, and Man of Steel so good, what if Zack Snyder did the Power Rangers reboot film? Because I've seen a lot of fan-made, reboot trailers about a Power Rangers reboot movie over and over, all for the last, my last few years of my lifetime on YouTube, and, when I'm not posting videos or anything. But when I'm watching other people's videos about Power Rangers or whatever, if I'm coming across a fan-made reboot film, which is, using existing footage of the Mighty Morphin movie from 1995 with other big-name blockbuster movies like whatever, G.I. Joe, Transformers, X-Men or whatever, Percy Jackson or those movies, I'd be like, that's not going to work. I mean, you just wait until when the real Power Rangers reboot film comes out one day, then your fan-made trailers are going to be considered trash. Again, compared to what I do, you guys go ahead and talk shit about my videos all you want about why this sucks or that sucks. Go right ahead and do it. I don't care. I'm not going to respond because after reading some comments like that, I'm going to be like, you must be a ridiculous fool for posting something like that. Well, everybody has the freedom of speech to post whatever they want. That's fine. I'm not trying to be some, some troll-hating purist here. Well, knowing I don't negotiate with trolls. And for the costumes, for the reboot, when they start production on it soon, and when they find the cast and who should direct this thing, for the costumes if they're going to do this, if they're going to do a Mighty Morphin reboot film, please, 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 I don't want to see. I mean, after seeing so much fan art of the Mighty Morphin Rangers getting a possible reboot treatment, and which is already getting a reboot treatment, I don't want to see the Mighty Morphin costumes being armored again. I mean, I like the armored suits from the 1995 movie, but in terms of today's modern-day stance of Hollywood movies, I don't want to see armored Ranger suits again. I mean, they were cool back in 1995, but not in these standards. I mean, just because you want these movies to look like these big-name Hollywood blockbusters we hear a lot in Basho and a couple of times, well, except for the Dark Knight trilogy, which we'll defend from negative criticism because those movies are not really worth criticizing for. Oh, yeah, Arrow comes on tonight. criticism. So, I suggest you better not make the costumes armored, because I've seen plenty of fan art floating around on the internet about if there was a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers reboot being made, according to every Mighty Morphin nostalgia fans' minds, that they should do the armored suit look because it looks awesome, and because because that's their way of saying, well, spandex is outdated. I think we should go with with a more armored feel. Spandex on the costumes for a reboot movie would make the movie look so freaking gay. Those kind of remarks. Or do the suits like the Go Buster costumes. Thanks for that comment, Barkeep. If the Power Rangers reboot film was like if they do a Mighty Morphin, if instead of doing a Mighty Morphin themed reboot for the 2016 film, what if the Power Rangers reboot movie would end up being either Go Buster? Oh, well, knowing Tokyo, we won't get an adaptation of that no time soon, or not at all, or probably a Ninja adaptation if that was the reboot movie. But unfortunately, Ninja airs this year in Japan. But if the Power Rangers reboot for 2016 was a Go Buster film, I think, knowing Lionsgate, Lionsgate, for the studio that does the DVD distribution for Power Rangers Samurai and Megaforce, I'm not sure for a feature film adaptation to be released in theaters. I don't think Lionsgate will accept Sentai footage for this film, because then the Motion Picture Association of America will be questioning, where did this kind of footage come from? And then Saban, people in Saban Brands like Haim Saban himself and El DeKill, who's the president of Saban Brands, will tell the executives at Lionsgate saying, that's from Japan, from a show that we knew for the source for our show of Power Rangers called Super Sentai that we've been using since the beginning of Mighty Morphin. That sort of remark to those executive CEOs and chairmen of Lionsgate, and they'll probably wondering, why is that kind of footage in our movie? We need our movie to be more American. We don't want something that's Japanese oriented and something that's more American oriented. Well, that's just in my thought of how I would imagine any of those CEOs over at Lionsgate would say. So, but actually, just thinking about it, if it was a Go Buster adaptation, then it would be because if Go Busters made homage. Now, for any of those who are fans of Go Buster, or a fan of Super Sentai in general, and for those that did watch Go Busters, if Go Busters was this reboot film of Power Rangers, then, just thinking about it, because Go Busters, after reading information about it on the Ranger Wiki and such, knowing Go Busters, it was the only Sentai, to this point, that has only made homages to Power Rangers within Super Sentai, because if Power Rangers is based on Super Sentai can do homages on Power Rangers anytime, any to this point. But actually, the only season to do that is Go Buster. Go Buster, for their mechs, instead of calling them mechas all the time, like they do every season, they would call them Megazords, which they did in their show. And when the Go Busters would do their Henshin transformation, they said it's Morphin time, and homage to what the Power Rangers would always do, saying it's Morphin time. And I figured why they did that, because maybe Go Buster. Go Buster. Although I never saw the whole season, but I never was, like I said in last year's video about if Go Buster was adapted to the 22nd season of Power Rangers after Super Megaforce last year, I would stop watching, because my interest in Go Buster is deeply low and at a 0% of my interest, because I said back in that video I have zero interest in Go Buster. I don't want to see it if it was a Power Ranger season, but a lot of you guys want Go Busters to happen as a Power Ranger season, but I'll talk about that in another podcast, probably after this, or after my hate speech toward the Super Samurai series. Maybe I'll talk about that again. But although I don't have no knowledge much of Go Buster, but know some knowledge of Go Kiger and Kyryuger and Tokyuger, but I can't talk much about Go Busters because I'm not a fan of that Sentai. Never was and probably never will. Unless if you guys want to force me to watch Go Busters, then I'll probably whatever. I think they might do that because armored suits, if you use the armored suits for this movie, it's going to make the costumes look too clunky looking. It's going to look, and it's going to be hard to see from a part of who looks like the Red Ranger, who looks like the Pink Ranger, who looks like the Black Ranger, Green Ranger, whatever. And knowing that spandex, I mean, if you guys think spandex, for those that are Mighty Morphin, thinking about it in a future perspective about if the reboot had armored suits instead of spandex, and if you guys think the spandex looks gay, then I think latex leather should do the movie justice. I mean, if the Go Buster costumes are made of leather, maybe the reboot costumes should be made of leather with minimal armored pieces. Like put some armored pieces on the chest and armored pieces on the lower arms and the lower kneecaps. Maybe they should do that for the reboot film. Instead of having it all totally armored looking like like Tony Stark's armor from the Iron Man movies and the Iron Man universe. Or like Christian Bale's Batman with the armored suit. I mean, which I still like, but I just think it's kind of, nowadays, it's so overrated for that. Or making it a little bit more simplistic, like Captain America's uniform from Captain America the Winter Soldier a little bit. Take some inspiration from that. Or make it look like Spider-Man's costume from the Amazing Spider-Man films, for example, and take that as an inspiration. Or the costumes from the big budget Fantastic Four movies to see if you can take any inspiration from those. Or knowing predominantly the X-Men movies. Because if the X-Men have totally black leather costumes in the original trilogy and onwards, maybe they could do the same thing for the Power Rangers. Well, actually, except having the suits being all black leather, when knowing one of the members of the original Power Rangers of the Mighty Morphin already has a Black Ranger, so there's no need to have the rest of the other team being all black, and not their respective colors. And otherwise, we can't tell which Ranger is from a part. So, and for the Megazords, I feel that if this is going to be a Mighty Morphin film, I feel that they're going to go with the Dino Zords again. I love the Dino Zords. I never said I hate them. Well, some person thought I don't, because as much as I don't want to talk about Mighty Morphin, when I talk about Lost Galaxy, it's like Galactabeast all over my video or so. But when it comes to the original Dino Zords, the first set of Zords the Power Rangers had access to, thanks to Zordon giving them the Zords and such, because their powers are based on the power of the prehistoric dinosaurs. I expect the Dino Zords to not look as clunky looking, much compared to the Ninja Zords from the 1995 movie. Because looking back at the Ninja Megazord and the Ninja Zords separately as a whole from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, the Ninja Zords in the original movie, they were, when I look at them now, I mean, they were fascinating to look at when we were kids back in 1995, but as we gotten older, well, some would still like the movie version, the 1995 movie version of the Ninja Zords, but personally, me, I started to grow on me and realized that the Ninja Megazord in the movie looks like crap. Whereas at least the Ninja Megazord from the show looks more Sentai accurate, while the original movie's version of the Ninja Megazord looks like garbage. I mean, as you know, the whole that the wolf the wolf and the ape doesn't look like each other, or the crane and falcon doesn't look like each other. At least the frog looks exactly like a frog, and the ape looks like, well, knowing that the ape Zord's head is different from the Sentai version, and it just looks like a primal King Kong-ish, ape. So, but the Dino Zords, maybe they might have, if they do the Zords, it might be done in Industrial Light and Magic, the same, ILM team that did the Transformers movies and the Ninja Turtles films. No offense, because I know a lot of you guys, some of you guys love Michael Bay's Transformers movies, while a lot of us hate them. And I know some of you, like the new Ninja Turtles movie, and I'm one of the few people that hate it. Actually, one of the few many people that hate it. And if ILM was if Saban Brands and Lionsgate get the ILM Industrial Light and Magic team to do the Megazord battles. I mean, if they can do the fight, I know some of the fight scenes in the Michael Bay's movies of Transformers can be a bit clunky to look at now, except for Age of Extinction, which I just recently watched. But if they was to do those Megazord battles in ILM, they should make them more realistic. They should. As much they should take inspiration from the giant robot monster, fight scenes from Pacific Rim for inspiration. See how they could do the Megazord battles. Instead of just having one Megazord battle, because we know the first two Power Rangers movies, there was only like one Megazord battle to end those movies. What about if we had multiple Megazord battles in the reboot film? Like in Pacific Rim, if the Jaegers came out every moment when the Kaijus attacked, they could do that. Maybe they can do the same thing for when the Rangers summoned the Dino Zords to fight off Rita's latest monster, and like multiple times in the movie. They should, get the Dino Zords to form the Megazord together and just fight those monsters, fight that damn monster of the half-hour moment of the film. I don't know how that's going to work. And I was just hoping for that. It's just one of those thoughts. Second thoughts. Now, thinking about it, I mean, I may not be good with trying to reinvent Mighty Morphin, but yet I can reinvent, come up with ideas of reinventing certain seasons of Power Rangers people barely don't even talk about. If I was to reinvent Zeo, I would reinvent how the Rangers got the Zeo powers and such, and Zords, how they faced the King Mondo and the Michelin Empire, and obviously, if I can talk about how I would reinvigorate Lost Galaxy, how they got on Terra Venture, how they faced Scorpius and Captain Mutiny's forces and such. Or if I was to do Super Megaforce, how they instead of going with the Ghost Ager suits and Zords, they could have went with the Go Kiger suits and Zords, and how the legendary battle should have been handled, and how the Go Kiger footage should have been handled well. Those kind of examples. But for Mighty Morphin, I mean, I get how many fans out in, the billions of fans of the Power Rangers community can do Mighty Morphin that I can. Because, I can think about Lost Galaxy or Super Megaforce and seasons like that again if I was to redo those seasons. But Mighty Morphin is a bit too much for me now. I mean, I can't keep resisting around, I love Mighty Morphin. But I just can't think of good actor choices to be the Power Rangers or the respective iconic villains, even Zordon, or two guys that can be a modern day Bulk and Skull. And what the Zords would look like if I was, knowing I don't have no experience of doing CGI effects or anything. But, hey. But those are just my second thoughts of this, my first video about I did about regarding the 2016 film before, following this announcement last year. I'll go on YouTube right now and take that first video about me discussing about the following announcement about the Power Rangers reboot movie off unlisted, because around the time last year when Saban's Power Rangers were flagging our Power Rangers related videos last year at the time, YouTube's community content ID system was fucking up at the time, giving us unnecessary copyright claims. I'll try to take that video unlisted and just try to put it in the public view, so that way people can see my original video discussing the reboot. So guys, I am done talking about my second thoughts of how I would have done the Power Rangers reboot film for 2016, or how I wish would be in there. What do you guys hope for to happen in the reboot film? Because I know a lot of you guys, there hasn't been much discussion about it ever since following the exit of Roberto Orci, since he wanted to do the Star Trek 13, whatever this third Star Trek movie will be in the new film series of Star Trek, which will accumulate to a trilogy. So I hope you guys drop a comment and please subscribe, and hope to see what you guys have to say about this in the comment section. I'm sorry for all those rude remarks earlier of if people were talking shit and bashing me for my thoughts and such. So, thanks for watching. This is Anthony Mars Jr. on PR Lost Galaxy 2014. Signing off, and I'll see you guys right back here next time. And I would love to talk with you guys more about any further speculations of what will be happening in the reboot film soon. But unfortunately, my discussion at the conference hall on Terra Venture is now over. Sorry, but thanks for watching anyway.